Have you noticed how, after a certain age, your home, your mind, and even your heart start filling up with things that no longer serve you? Yet you keep carrying them as if they were essential? I'm not just talking about objects in a drawer, but also habits, guilt, and unspoken words that quietly steal your peace and wither you from within. The hardest part is that no one forced these burdens on you. You accepted them little by little until they became part of who you are. And yet, there comes a moment when life puts an uncomfortable truth right in front of you. If you don't let go of what no longer belongs, you'll never make room for what can still bring you joy. Today, I want you to bravely look at what you've been dragging along without reason. I'm not talking about a superficial change, but a profound act of dignity. Because after 60, what weighs you down the most isn't the years. It's the things you still hold on to without purpose. And let me warn you, the last of these burdens is the most dangerous, the most subtle, and if you don't recognize it, it can steal even the peace you spent so long searching for. I'm John, and this won't be a light stroll. It will be a much-needed shakeup. We're going to go through 9 things you need to remove from your life if you truly want to experience happiness that is both immediate and lasting. Stay until the end, because the final point may just be the key that restores the serenity you deserve. Let go of constant complaining that drains your energy. The first step on this journey to happiness is to let go of constant complaining that drains your energy. You may not realize it, but every time you repeat phrases like, "No one visits me anymore," or "My back is killing me," you're feeding a silent cycle that robs you of strength. Complaining doesn't change what you're going through. It only magnifies it. Worse yet, it traps you in the role of a victim, slowly extinguishing the vitality you still have. It's like carrying a backpack full of stones you've placed there yourself. At first, it seems light, but over the years, it becomes an unbearable weight. The most deceptive thing about complaining is that it disguises itself as relief. You think that talking about pain will ease it, but when you repeat it day after day, all you do is reinforce it. I remember an old friend named Robert who, after losing his job, would tirelessly repeat that life no longer had meaning. His pain was real. No one denied that. But the constant repetition became a poison that distanced him from friends, family, and even his own hope. What began as a cry for help turned into a wall that isolated him. The Stoics understood this clearly. Seneca wrote, "We suffer not from events themselves, but from the way we see them." That means that while pain is inevitable, the way we interpret it and keep repeating it is up to us. Constant complaining is like watering a garden with stagnant water. Nothing blooms there. Only the mold of resignation grows. Imagine for a moment that every word you speak becomes a seed that falls into your inner soil. What kind of harvest would you reap if those seeds were complaints, reproaches, and laments? Without realizing it, you'd be cultivating a barren field incapable of giving you fruit. But if you choose to change just one word, if instead of saying, "I'm exhausted," you say, "Today I need rest," your field begins to transform, not because the exhaustion disappears, but because you stop handing over your power. The challenge here is not to deny what hurts, but to stop narrating it as if it were an unavoidable fate. Ask yourself, how many times a day do I talk about my pains, and how many times about my joys? Make a conscious effort to reduce the first count and increase the second. You don't need to erase reality. Only balance the scale, because what you repeat is what you plant, and what you plant is what you live. Letting go of complaints doesn't mean silencing what you feel. It means giving it a different, more dignified outlet. You can pray, write, meditate, but don't surrender your voice to a habit that only empties you. Remember this: happiness doesn't come when everything outside changes, but when you change what you choose to nurture within yourself. And constant complaining, if you don't release it, will remain the first chain keeping you from feeling free. Release comparison with others and reclaim your own worth. The second burden to release is the habit of comparing yourself to others and reclaiming your own worth. Few things wear you down as much as constantly looking to the side and measuring your life against someone else's. You compare yourself to friends who still travel, to neighbors who seem more active, to relatives who showcase their achievements on social media. Without realizing it, you turn your days into a constant exam where you always fail. Comparison is a silent poison because it robs you of the joy of what you already have and makes every moment feel insufficient. Think about this. Every person walks a unique path with pains, choices, and sacrifices invisible from the outside. But when you compare your story with someone else's, you forget your own journey and end up devaluing the footprints you've left behind. It's like looking at a lush tree and feeling envy, without knowing that its roots have endured storms you never saw. What you see is only the surface, not the hidden struggle, Marcus Aurelius warned. Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. This phrase applies equally to women and to everyone listening. There's no point in looking at someone else's life to decide whether yours matters or not. Value is proven by living with integrity, not by measuring yourself against foreign scales. When you choose to compare, you hand over your dignity to a game you can never win, because there will always be someone with more or with less, and in both cases, comparison destroys. Imagine your life as a tapestry. Every thread you chose, every mistake, every victory, every loss forms part of the complete design. If you pulled out a thread because you didn't like it, the whole tapestry would unravel. Comparison is exactly that. Trying to replace your design with someone else's without realizing that your work is already one of a kind. And what you call a flaw today may one day be the very mark that holds your whole pattern together. I invite you to make a simple but powerful gesture the next time you catch yourself thinking, "She's better off than me," or "He achieved what I couldn't." Replace it with, "My story is mine alone, and I can still write it." It may seem small, but every repetition is an act of freedom. Because letting go of comparison is not about pride. It's about respect for your own path. When you release that need to measure yourself against others, the mirror changes. It no longer reflects someone lacking, but someone still standing, someone who has endured, someone who still has seeds to plant. And believe me, at this age, self-respect is more rejuvenating than any cream. Choose to see yourself with your own eyes, not through the eyes of others. Only then will you reclaim the peace you deserve. Free yourself from objects that carry guilt and heavy memories. The third step towards a lighter life is to free yourself from objects that carry guilt and heavy memories. Many older people's homes turn into museums of the past with corners full of things that don't bring joy, but instead stir up stings of nostalgia or reproach. You keep the suit you never wore, the letters from someone who betrayed you, the gift from a friendship that ended badly, the decorations that only remind you of family arguments. And every time you look at them, even out of the corner of your eye, your soul feels that weight. It's not the accumulation of things, it's the accumulation of wounds. The strange thing is that these objects seem harmless, but they act like invisible anchors. They don't weigh in your hands, but they weigh in your memory. I know a man named William who kept his late wife's favorite painting in his living room. Even though it brought him nothing but sorrow, he said it was out of love. But deep down, every time he saw it, he relived the pain of her loss. It was like having her ghost hanging right there in his house. When he finally decided to give it to a museum, he felt as if the very air changed density. For the first time in a long while, he could breathe more freely. Stoicism teaches that what binds us is not the object itself, but the attachment to the emotion we've tied to it. Epictetus insisted that true freedom begins when we stop depending on what's external to define what's internal. That's why letting go of objects loaded with guilt or pain is not just a material act. It's a spiritual exercise. It's telling your soul, "I'm no longer defined by what I suffered. I'm defined by what I choose to hold on to today." Try this. Walk through your home and notice which things stir discomfort instead of serenity. If seeing an object gives you a knot in your stomach or a shadow of sadness, that object is not serving you. You don't need it as a reminder because what matters from that story is already in you, in the lessons learned, not in the things kept. Imagine that every item you let go of is like opening a window to let fresh air in. You're not losing anything. You're gaining space for what truly nourishes you. Let me give you a small but powerful challenge this week. Choose just one object that no longer brings you peace and let it go. Don't overthink it. Don't look for excuses. Give it away. Donate it. Throw it out if you must. But don't let it stay in your space one more day. That gesture, small as it may seem, will send a clear message to your mind that you're ready to empty yourself of guilt and open up to a lighter kind of happiness. If this message resonates with you, if you feel like in some way I'm speaking directly to your life, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Tell me in the comments what city you're watching from and write the phrase, "My peace is not negotiable." That will be your sign that you're ready to release what no longer belongs to you. Because remember, true happiness isn't found in holding on. It's found in letting go of what was never meant to stay. Break away from conversations that always revolve around illness. The fourth burden to release is the habit of engaging in conversations that always revolve around illness. Have you noticed how some gatherings end up being only about medicines, pains, diagnoses, and symptoms? It's as if life were reduced to an endless list of ailments. And the most serious part isn't just what's being said, it's how those words end up shaping your spirit. Because every time you repeat the same story, you give more strength to the idea that your body exists only to suffer. Conversations obsessed with sickness act like a distorted mirror. You might arrive with just a small discomfort, but after hearing everyone else's stories, your pain grows, your fear intensifies, and what was once bearable turns into a monster. I've seen it countless times. A healthy person leaves a gathering carrying fears that weren't even theirs. It's as if every word about illness were another brick in a wall that blocks out hope. The Stoics often spoke of the importance of choosing wisely what we feed our minds. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And what color do you think a soul takes on when it's constantly soaked in complaints, diagnoses, and fears? It turns gray, dim, with no space left for light. This doesn't mean denying the reality of your body. It means not giving it the first and last word in every conversation. Imagine for a moment that every conversation is like a shared table, if only dishes of pain are served. No matter how hungry you are for joy, you'll end up swallowing bitterness. But if you dare to bring something else to the table, a book, an experience, a joyful story, not only do you nourish yourself, you give others the chance to taste something different. Shifting the direction of a conversation is more powerful than you think. Sometimes just one sentence is enough to change the atmosphere of an entire group. Here's something practical. The next time you find yourself in a dialogue that's stuck on illnesses, gently interrupt with a different question. Ask about a happy memory, a dream still waiting to be fulfilled, or a small detail from the day. Not everyone will follow, but those who do will receive a gift. The reminder that we are not just deteriorating bodies, but souls with stories, with desires, with the ability to keep creating. Breaking away from these conversations isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. Because every word you consume is either medicine or poison. And if you choose to step out of that spiral of ailments, you're not denying your reality, you're protecting your dignity. Remember this, pain may be part of life, but it has no right to occupy all your words. Choose to speak about what still blooms, and you'll see how happiness finds room to enter. Remove from your life those who only subtract and never add. The fifth step towards reclaiming your happiness is to remove from your life those who only subtract and never add. You've probably noticed it already. There are those who show up only to ask for favors, to unload their problems without listening, to criticize what you do, or to sow discouragement with every word. They don't bring light or true companionship. They simply dump their burdens on you and leave lighter while you're left heavier. These kinds of relationships, even when disguised as friendship or family affection, are like hidden holes where your energy leaks away. The hard part is recognizing them because many times they're people close to you, those you've shared years of your life with. You justify it by thinking that's just how they are, or they'll never change. Meanwhile, every encounter becomes a reminder of what strips you of dignity, and the most painful truth is that out of fear of loneliness, you keep letting them into your home, your time, your heart. But tell me, what's lonelier? Being with someone who doesn't respect you, or enjoying the silence of your own peace? Seneca put it plainly, it's better to be alone than in bad company. And this isn't just a comforting phrase, it's a warning. Because toxic company doesn't just affect your emotions, it impacts your health. The stress caused by these relationships turns into insomnia, chronic fatigue, aches and pains no doctor can explain. All of this because you didn't dare to set a clear boundary. Picture your life as a garden. Every person you let in is a seed. Some grow into flowers that beautify your space, others into weeds that choke out what could have flourished. You can't stop a harmful seed from appearing, but you can decide to pull it out before it consumes the soil. Letting go of those who only drain you is an act of inner gardening, clearing the ground so that what truly matters can bloom. Try this simple exercise. Think about how you feel after spending time with someone. If you end up more tired, frustrated, or with the sense that you wasted your time, that person is subtracting from you. If instead you leave feeling calm or inspired even after a short conversation, that person is adding to your life. The difference is clear, and your task is to choose who continues to share your energy. Don't forget this. At this stage of life, your time is gold, and you can't afford to waste it on people who only wear you down. Walking away isn't cruelty, it's self-respect, because every day you choose to stay where you're only carrying others' burdens, you're denying yourself the chance to enjoy the serenity that is still yours. And serenity at this point in life is not a luxury, it's a vital necessity. Abandon the need to justify every decision you make. The sixth burden to release is the need to justify every decision you make. You've probably experienced it too many times. Deciding not to attend a family gathering and immediately feeling like you owe everyone a long explanation. Choosing to spend money on something that brings you joy and rushing to clarify that it wasn't a waste. Deciding to stay home instead of babysitting grandchildren or taking care of someone. And guilt pushes you to invent excuses. That habit of justifying yourself isn't courtesy. It's an invisible chain that keeps you tied to other people's approval, as if your life always required someone else's permission. The saddest part is that this pattern often comes from years of silent giving. You were a parent, a partner, a caretaker, a support for everyone. And in that role, you learned that your worth depended on explaining yourself so you wouldn't be seen as selfish. But now at this stage of life, every justification works like a surrender. Every time you explain your right to rest, to choose, to say no, you're giving away a piece of your dignity. Do you really need permission to live the way you choose? Stoicism makes it clear. Freedom doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on the inner strength with which you decide. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Tranquility comes from living in harmony with your nature." That harmony can't be negotiated with excuses or validated by arguments. When you spend your days justifying your steps, you're breaking the harmony of your own life just to maintain an image that only serves others. Imagine your life as a book. Every page you justify is like letting someone else edit your sentences, cross out your words, and scribble notes in the margins about what you should have written. In the end, that book no longer belongs to you. It becomes a shared story filled with opinions you never asked for. Letting go of the need to justify yourself is reclaiming authorship of your story. It's writing in your own hand. Even if others don't like the style, try it in your daily life. The next time you make a simple decision like resting in the afternoon or not answering the phone, practice not giving explanations. Stay in the silence of your choice, even if others frown. You'll discover that the world doesn't collapse and your peace holds up stronger than you imagine. That practice repeated little by little strengthens the root of your freedom. Remember this firmly. A life that must justify itself at every step ceases to be truly your own. And at this stage, the last thing you deserve is to keep asking for permission to exist. Let go of that need, and you'll see happiness appear immediately, because it will no longer depend on what others say, but on who you decide to be. Let go of the fear of change and dare to start again. The seventh step towards a lighter life is to let go of the fear of change and dare to start again. Maybe you hear it inside you as a silent voice that whispers, "It's too late for me." That phrase is more destructive than any wrinkle or ache because it doesn't just limit what you do. It locks away what you could still discover. Many people, once they retire, convince themselves that anything new is reserved for the young. That belief becomes an invisible prison, stealing the enthusiasm and meaning from each day. The truth is, change has no age, Seneca said. As long as you live, keep learning how to live. That's proof that you can always begin again. Life is full of examples of people who, after 60 or 70, discovered new passions. Learning to sing, to paint, to travel, to love in a different way. Not because they had a guaranteed future, but because they understood that the only reality is the present. And in the present, there is always room for a beginning. Think of your life as a river. The water is never the same. It's always moving, always renewing itself. Clinging to the idea that you can't change anymore is like trying to trap water in your hands. You end up empty, motionless, without freshness. But when you decide to flow with what comes, your life regains that sense of vitality that once felt lost. It doesn't matter if the step is big or small. What matters is that you move, that you choose, that you dare. Maybe the change you need isn't monumental. It could be enrolling in a simple class, daring to take a short trip, picking up a hobby you once abandoned, or just walking a new route through your neighborhood. Every small gesture sends a powerful message to your mind. I'm still alive. I'm still moving forward. I can still transform. And that message cuts the root of resignation, the very thing that harms old age the most. The fear of change often comes from other people's voices, children saying, "That's not for you anymore." Friends questioning, "Why now?" But those voices don't live in your skin. They don't feel your heart. They don't know your dreams. The only permission you need is the one you give yourself. Every time you choose to begin again, even in small ways, you reclaim a piece of your dignity. Hold on to this unshakable truth. Life doesn't end as long as you have the courage to reinvent yourself. And fear, no matter how strong it feels, is always weaker than a decision made with faith in yourself. Let go of that chain and you'll see how, even at your age, starting over becomes the greatest act of immediate happiness. Leave behind the accumulated resentment that ages more than time itself. The eighth burden to release is the accumulated resentment that ages more than time itself. Maybe you still carry inside names, scenes, and words that hurt as if they had happened yesterday. Old arguments with siblings, broken promises from partners, ingratitude from children or friends who vanished when you needed them most. Every time those memories return, they don't just wound your heart, your body feels it. Too, the tension in your back, the sleepless nights, the unexplained fatigue. Resentment is like a silent acid that corrodes everything it touches. And as long as you hold on to it, it will keep stealing your peace and your youth. The most deceptive part is that we often believe resentment gives us strength, as if it could protect us from being hurt again. But the truth is, the only one carrying that weight is you, not the other person. It's like drinking poison and expecting the harm to fall on the one who wronged you. Meanwhile, the years etch themselves deeper into your face and spirit. Not because of time itself, but because of the hardness that resentment plants within you. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control what others did, only how we choose to respond. Epictetus said it clearly. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but the opinions we have about them. The harm already happened, but resentment is the choice to relive it every day in your memory. Letting go doesn't mean excusing the other person. It means freeing yourself from the invisible chain that keeps you stuck. Picture your life as a house. Every resentment you hold on to is like sealing a window with bricks. At first, the house feels protected, but little by little, it grows darker, damper, airless. When you finally choose to forgive, not out of kindness to the other, but out of dignity toward yourself, it's like knocking down a wall and letting the light pour in. The house is the same, but now it breathes. Now it blooms. Here's an intimate exercise. Think of one person you still hold resentment against. Write them a letter. Not to send, but to release from your chest the words you never said. Then tuck it away in a drawer or burn it. That symbolic act is your way of telling yourself, I will no longer let this memory keep aging my soul. What you don't release ties you down. What you let go gives you back your freedom. Remember this firmly. Years alone don't destroy happiness. The weight of resentment does. Letting it go doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means honoring your life by choosing peace over wounds. Because there is no cream or remedy that rejuvenates more than a heart free of resentments. Let go of the idea that your peace needs permission or explanation. The ninth and final burden to release is the idea that your peace needs permission or explanation. For far too long, you've gotten used to justifying your silences, giving reasons when you chose to rest, apologizing for not being available. It's as if your tranquility always had to pass through someone else's approval. As if your right to live in calm needed to be examined before being accepted. But the truth is different. Your peace is yours. And as long as you keep explaining it, it will remain fragile. The hardest part is that often the ones who question your serenity the most are those who benefited from your sacrifice. Children who expect you to always say yes. Friends who only show up when they need something. Relatives who interpret your silence as a lack of love. And in that dynamic, every explanation you give becomes another brick in the prison of guilt. Because when you justify your peace, you're really asking for permission to be happy, and that is the greatest mistake you can make at this stage of life. The Stoics warned us, true freedom doesn't depend on what others understand, but on the firmness with which you live your decisions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, serenity comes when you stop worrying about what doesn't depend on you, and your peace doesn't depend on other people's opinions. It depends on your will to hold it steady and unapologetic. Picture your peace as a sanctuary. Every time you give unnecessary explanations, it's like opening its doors and letting anyone walk in to question how you decorated it, how you care for it, how you live in it. The sanctuary loses its power because it's no longer entirely yours. But when you choose to close it with respect and dignity, not as a wall of pride, but as a sacred space, it regains its greatness. And then your calm becomes silent authority. You don't need to defend it. It simply stands on its own. I want you to see this as a final act of decision. From now on, when someone questions your distance, your silence, or your rest, respond with serenity, without explanations. Let your actions speak. Let your steady gaze say what words no longer need to. That practice carried over time will be the strongest reminder that at this stage of life, your existence no longer needs to justify its right to peace. Remember with all the strength of your dignity, your peace is not to be negotiated, not to be requested, not to be explained. It is to be lived. And when you choose it without permission, without apologies, and without fear, that peace becomes the immediate happiness so many search for outside, yet only you can protect from within. Final thought. We've reached the end of this journey, and if you're still here, It's because deep down you know that happiness doesn't depend on what the world gives you, but on what you dare to let go. Today we didn't talk about magic formulas or empty promises. We spoke about 9 burdens that if you don't release them will keep stealing your peace, your energy, and your dignity. Each point was an invitation to face what no longer belongs, to recognize that what ages you most isn't the passing of years, but the habit of clinging to what hurts. If you've listened to every word, it means you're ready for a different step. It's not about changing your life all at once, but about daring to begin with one small gesture. Stop complaining, stop comparing, give away one object. Silence conversations that only drain you. Let go of those who subtract. Stop justifying yourself. Dare to change. Release resentment. And finally, defend your peace without asking permission. 9 decisions that may seem simple, but together they form a profound shift. The path to a lighter life, more truly yours, more free. I want to thank you for staying until the end. Not everyone makes it here. Only those with the courage to listen to themselves and the humility to change remain until the last word. You are part of this community of seekers of dignity and serenity, and that already says so much about you. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe and share your experience in the comments with the phrase, "I choose to awaken," along with the city where you're watching from. That gesture isn't just a ritual, it's a reminder that you are not alone, that there are thousands of men and women in this community defending their dignity right alongside you. Because what we've shared today doesn't end here. In the next videos, we'll keep uncovering warnings, seeds of wisdom, and paths to vitality that can transform the way you live after 60. And always remember, your happiness does not depend on anyone's permission. True freedom begins when you choose what deserves to stay and dare to throw away everything else.